Hey, I'm Mike Lemon, Cyber Safe Teen, and after educating over 20,000 parents, the biggest question I have about an app is Snapchat and how do you monitor Snapchat? How do you see what they're seeing, the pictures they're getting? And so today we're talking with Todd Bucciarelli from Movi, which is short for Mobile Vigilance. And he has a great app and it's actually free for parents to help with not only Snapchat, but other also pornography and other images that you don't want your child to see. And so, Todd, I appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike.
Excellent. What you have created is really something astounding that I haven't seen before in any app, as far as the method that you take in helping parents see the pictures that they see, the children see, and actually be able to stay up to date with that. Very impressed with how you're doing things and the patents that you have with that. And can you kind of give parents an overall kind of understanding of, one, why you're doing what you're doing, and two, how Movi can help them?
Sure, sure. Well, it's not hard to be passionate about your kids. So that's kind of how it all started. But, we decided that we wanted to do one thing and do one thing better than anybody else. And it turned out on Google Play, as you point out, there wasn't any other apps that were monitoring for inappropriate content with images, pictures, and videos. And so the decision was made based on my kids using Snapchat on a regular basis. They love the app, use it constantly. And then the day I found out that the pictures could disappear was when the big red flag was raised. And this all started back in 2012, believe it or not. And at that point in time, you probably don't remember, but only about 30 or 35% of us had smartphones. And it dawned on me that now the device was no longer just used for making a phone call or sending a text message, but it was a mini computer that was able to run software or an app. And so I thought, well, why wouldn't we develop an app that could be downloaded on the child's phone, that could scan for inappropriate pictures, videos, etc., and then when it detected them, alert the parent in near real time, and then also send a copy of the content for them to review. And we all knew it was just a matter of time till everybody had a smartphone. And of course, now as we fast forward to 2021, virtually everyone, especially in the United States, has a smartphone. So that was really where it started. Now, how did we end up accomplishing this? Um, since the computer software running on the child's cell phone has the ability to, through a tricky method that we use, read or take a picture of the display itself on the child's phone. So every second when that display is illuminated on the child's phone, we're taking a picture of it and we're evaluating it for inappropriate content through artificial intelligence. So every second we're taking a picture of that screen, we're determining whether or not there's inappropriate content. And if there is, we immediately alert the parent and we blur that image and we send a copy of that to the parent so that they can review it. There's
Yeah,
nothing
I
else
think
like.
that's very important to let parents know. That is, so if you as a parent are using this app, you're not going to get the picture that they. So if your child is looking at pornography, or if they're sending pictures, and it's on their phone, and their software sees it, takes a picture of it, evaluates it, says, "Mom and Dad need to know about this," and they send it. They're not going to see these nude pictures. You're not sending potential child pornography. You're sending blurred images so they can understand what's on there. Because a lot of parents are like, "Oh, I don't want to, obviously they don't want child pornography on their device, and obviously you don't want them on your server either. And so that's I think a big point for parents to understand that you're not actually getting the full picture, you're getting a blurred picture, so you can still understand what's on there, but it's not going to be a point to where you're in legal trouble. So
Yeah,
you take
absolutely.
care of that.
Yeah, no question about it. And we spend a lot of time, as they say, obfuscating the picture, essentially just a fancy word for blurring. But we have tuned that very carefully to make sure that it's quite blurred out, but the silhouette is still enough detail that you can ascertain what is really going on in the picture. So yeah, it's important. You're right.
You know, what I found so interesting with what you all are doing is that it's not just working within kind of the confines of the operating system. So it doesn't matter if an app is giving you permission to do this or do that or not. You're actually basically on the screen level looking at what is on there. And so if someone pulls up a picture on their photos, you can see that. Or if someone sends it through an app, and so many times with Snapchat is these pictures are basically encrypted when they're being sent, and it's so hard for other apps to see that because of that encryption, and they delete so fast. It's very difficult for other apps to be able to do that, to be able to monitor and see those pictures. But what you all are doing is really bypassing that whole thing and saying what's on the screen is important. It doesn't matter what app they're using.
Absolutely correct, and it's a really good point. You know, kids now in school use Dropbox or use Google Drive, Google Docs to actually send pictures, maybe they're lewd pictures, sexting, etc., or just find other or other mechanisms that they can use that, as you say, they're not a social media app that you would normally look to actually try to develop code to thwart or to pick off the pictures. So yeah, absolutely. Um, it doesn't really matter what the source is, whether it's a website, whether it's Google Drive, whether it's Google Docs, Dropbox, Snapchat, any other social media app, whether it's just the native MMS text messaging system. Movi doesn't care. Uh, they're going to, we're going to read the screen and we're going to alert the parent. Now, I think what's really important to note is that parents don't really care, I think, whether or not they know what social media app it's coming from. And so the downside actually is that we don't really know what the source is. But the good news
Mhm.
is, you know, we're virtually going to catch any nudity, pornography, or predator type inquiries that are being administered to that phone at any time. And that's what's important. I think that if you're going to do it, it has to be almost virtually foolproof. Because if you're only able to detect pictures 60% of the time, 70% of the time, then you're giving parents a false sense of security. They're putting it on their child's phone, they expect it to work, and there is pictures and videos that are going to slip through the cracks. And God forbid it's one from a predator, where a predator gets to move through their slippery slope process of getting kids to send slightly lewd pictures to use as collateral to get the next picture, so on and so forth. So uh, what the source is doesn't really matter. What's important is there was inappropriate content, and
Mhm.
we're going to catch that every time. So no false sense of security here. It is the best at what it does, bar none, in the app world.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Like I said, whether permissions or updates or anything or new apps parents don't even know about, or a brand new app that gets hot and it takes a little while for everyone else to kind of catch up to being able to monitor that app. It doesn't really matter with your tool, and I think that's really it. Truly is. It is amazing and kind of groundbreaking at the same time. So
Thank
with what you started in 2012, so you've seen a huge change in kind of what our kids are doing and in different apps and different things. How have you and and Movi really kind of changed during that time, or have you since you've just been screen? It doesn't really matter what they use.
Well, 2012 is when I came up with the idea, and I ended up writing a patent with a patent attorney, and then we filed it in 2013, the first patent. Now I have a family of patents, but it took 4.5 years to get that patent granted, and we didn't start developing the app till after that. So, but it still took over 2 years, approximately 2 years, to develop this app. It's pretty sophisticated, pretty complicated, and we've spent a lot of dollars on it as well. So it has its own proprietary artificial intelligence software that we have developed, trained. It has in its own uh, hybrid peer-to-peer network transfer of data. And this is really important because the data is transferred from the child phone to the parent phone, without really being permanently stored in the cloud or on any server whatsoever. So that means that there's no data from the child being stored permanently on a server, which could be breached by a criminal. And for
Right.
that reason, it's completely compliant with a law, which I'm sure you're aware of, called the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, or better known as the acronym COPPA. And so Movi is absolutely 100% COPPA compliant, and it's because we store no data whatsoever um, on a server. And that is also a very efficient process, which enables us to offer the app for free because it keeps our operating costs very low. Storing lots of information, like other parental apps do, in the cloud or on a server, um, is a costly process. And I believe that's one of the main reasons why the subscription costs are so high. Not to say it's not worth it, because I think that there's a lot of really good parental control apps out there. And Movi doesn't do everything today. I mean, we plan on adding more of the important features as time goes on. But again, the goal was just to do one thing and do it better than anything else that existed in the app world, and make sure that that parents could be confident to put it on there and not have some false sense of security that they've got an app running to alert them of inappropriate content and then it not work all the time. So we think we've accomplished that, and the feedback that we're getting from the field is excellent.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what you all are doing. Let me ask two questions for parents. One is, how fast do they get the notice? And then two would be, how much of a drain on the battery is this if they're seeing it every second?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So to answer the first one, it depends on your connections. So I call it near real time. But a parent will be alerted within a few seconds to maybe as much as 30 seconds. Maybe it would go to 40 or 45 if the internet connections were extremely poor. If there was no connection, the connection was lost, then obviously we can't transfer it until the connection comes back. Um, no
Okay, and
surprise.
how's that notification happen? Is that through like a message on their phone pops up, or is that through a portal on
No, it's
their
a
on the
push,
app on
push
their?
notification, push notification direct to the parent's phone. And
Okay,
it pops up. There's a little bell that sounds, and then they can either press that notification and go into the app, or they can just go into the app directly, and then they can
okay,
go in and see what the alert was all about. Mhm.
excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Now,
And so
now
your
what about
second
the
question,
battery? Or go ahead.
yeah. So I had the same question actually, Mike, when we were first developing this, and I said, I'm very dubious of the fact that I think this is going to have some drain on the battery. And we did a lot of testing on this, and remarkably, it almost it has very little battery drain. Yeah, it increases it by, I don't remember what the stats are, 3 to 6% in the course of the day, but it's negligible and virtually unnoticeable. And part of it is the new battery technologies. The battery technologies have gotten extremely good. So, but the artificial intelligence engine that we're running is also very efficient. And as I said, it was developed by us to do what it does. It doesn't look for other types of content. Um, quite honestly, ours is more accurate than Google Vision or the Apple AI model for detecting nudity and pornography, and it has far less false positives. But in defense of their technology, they are looking for a lot of other things, a myriad of different types of content,
Hmm.
where we just focus on one thing. So the engine doesn't have to crunch a lot of data. Having that proprietary AI model it has been a big help on the strain on those batteries. But yeah, it's a great question, and I was blown away when I found out how little drain we actually have on the batteries. But good point.
So you talked about kind of the strain or the drain on the battery, but they're also strain on parents if they're going to get a bunch of false negatives. They it gets to the point to where parents just don't even care that got a notification if they have a bunch of. You're saying yours is your false negatives are very low, or false positives are very low.
Very low. Very low. And you're right. It has to be that way, or it is. It's kind of the old boy who cried wolf syndrome.
Hmm.
Maybe young people listening won't know what that adage means, but um, yeah, it's very important. And we spend a lot of time and effort actually. Developing that AI model and that engine, took many, many months, and tuning it in to not have the false positives was a fairly large development effort on our part. But yes, it is absolutely paramount that you don't get a lot of false positives. Not to say that you never will, because it's possible. But one of the things it doesn't do today is we don't have a sensitivity setting, which we're going to be adding, because some parents are just more sensitive to the way that kids dress, et cetera, than others. So,
Hmm.
for instance, a day at the beach in a bikini may uh, generate a alert, and it probably
Yeah.
will if they're very skimpy. But most parents, I think, want to see that. They'll understand it. Oh, yes, my child is at the beach today. I expect this. But there's
Yeah.
other parents that if very short shorts, midriff type tops, and things like that is acceptable to, others it isn't, and they want to know about it. So we're planning on putting probably a high, a mid, and a low sensitivity level to allow parents to adjust that themselves. Yeah.
That's
But there
awesome.
is another feature that you haven't brought up. I don't know if you're getting to it,
Sure.
because I know that you like the app, and I know you've been studying it closely, and that is that spot check feature. So,
Hmm.
what were your thoughts on that?
Well, can you explain what it is, and then we can discuss it?
Sure. Why don't I go ahead and do that? So,
Yeah.
what happened was, and this is part of the evolution of the app, as you were kind of alluding to how things have changed over time. And I had a conversation with a woman, and she was using the app, and she said, I got to tell you my story. And I got to tell you, this is pretty alarming, because when you hear it directly from a mother or a parent or a guardian, it's really impactful. And she said, recently, my stepdaughter came to live with us. And it was because the natural mother was having some issues, and they needed to take her in under their own roof. And she said, I didn't know how to handle it, but there was seemed like a lot of secretive things going on with the phone. So I would hijack that phone from her, physically grab that phone, and then look through the browsing history and the pictures and so forth. And I've since found out that there's a number of parents that do this. They spot check, if you
Absolutely.
will, what's going on that phone. And she said that she learned that this girl who had just turned 11 years old was being pursued by three adult men. 11-year-old girl.
Hmm.
And that's pretty alarming. We read about it, we know it's true, but when you hear somebody talk about it, wow, it really hits home. And so it was kind of about at that point when we decided, this app has to be free. We have to find a way to monetize this app, even if the profit levels are low, and get it out there to every parent who has an Android phone today that wants it. Period. It's just too important. And so it became more of a mission. And so we kind of call it the Movi mission internally. And that is sort of to not any parent that wants to have this app should have it. And it is an ad-based model, so there are ads that are displayed from time to time, but we've made it unobtrusive. And based on our retention rate currently, it doesn't seem like anyone's complaining. And I think we have almost all 5-star reviews, and 1 4-star review at this point. So the feedback has been overwhelming, actually.
That's a great, I think, feature, not only for the parents to have that confidence, but also for the kids to know at some point today when I'm on here, they're going to be a spot check or a couple spot checks. And
Yeah, so
so
I
it really
guess
kind of
maybe
limits what
really,
they're going to do. So
yeah,
it kind
I
of
say I
works for
guess
both parents and for the kids.
absolutely.
That's
So
excellent.
let me tie up the story to make sure everybody's clear, because I don't think I articulated that as well as I could have. So after that conversation, um, we decided to add this as a feature. So to automatically allow parents to be able to spot check on what was happening every day on their child's phone, but yet not be too intrusive on the kid's privacy. And so since Movi was already taking pictures of the screen every second, it wasn't that difficult of a feature to add. And so today, Movi will give a parent 6 spot checks during the day, one every 3 hours approximately, and then two during the night, because parents want to know, especially if a 7-year-old child is using their phone at 2 o'clock in the morning on a school night. They're going to get a spot check for
Absolutely.
that. It's going to be an innocent picture probably, but they want to know that they're up using their phones. Um, but it also just gives them just a feel for what types of things that they're doing in their sort of private digital lives. I mean, in the past, parents are completely blacked out on what is going on their phones, blinded to any activity whatsoever. And we know kids don't openly show parents what's going on their phones. So
Oh no.
until then, you know, there was no visibility. Well, Movi gives parents visibility without overextending into the privacy of the child's digital life. So we think it's it ended up being probably the most important feature because parents use it every day to see the spot checks, or maybe they don't go every day, every other day, what have you. But now the adult content alerts, or the red alerts for the nudity in pornographic videos, is more of an insurance policy that runs on the phone, just waiting for that instance to occur. Because let's face it, you give a kid a phone when they're 7 years old, and you might not see any inappropriate content for months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. But eventually there's going to be a bad actor, a bad influencer in the social media group that's going to send something out. And you want to know about it right when it happens. It's important for parents to take immediate action when these things start to happen and not allow it to go on for weeks or months on end.
Hmm.
And worse yet is if it
Absolutely.
was an inquiry from a predator, of course. So
Absolutely.
uh, Spot Check gives you daily visibility without impeding on the child's privacy, and you have the app looking for inappropriate content to alert you for when and if it ever does happen. And that's what it's all about.
It's an awesome app, and usually we say who's it for, who's it not for, but really if your child's online and you want to protect them against predators as far as pictures being sent or asked for, pornography, those types of things, whether it's across any app. I mean, people think YouTube is safe. Well, it's anything you want to see on, or you're going to see on Google, you're going to see on YouTube. It's just too much content out there for them to really monitor.
Yeah.
Let's jump over to
And,
your uh,
and one other thing, Mike, I wanted to mention, I think what's the more likely thing to happen is what I call the bad influencer in the social media group. Either
true.
a kid in the group that is new or older, or is just more progressive, and starts to assert different types of inappropriate behaviors, that's going to get caught. And that is the thing that happens much more frequently, and I know you know this, but then
Hmm.
parents are willing to even allow themselves to believe. I mean, it's incredible. I don't know, you could tell me the stats, but by the time a kid is 11 or 12 years old, the likelihood of them having received a sexting picture from one of their peers, another child in their social media group, is extremely high.
Yep. And then pornography. I mean, I can't remember, like 94% by 10 or 11 or something like that have been viewing pornography. So absolutely a great tool for to help parents. Oops, didn't mean to lose you there. Let me kick this one off and add this. So this is your website, and they can go straight to the Google Play Store and to download this, or they can come here and click on the link up top here. It says get it on Google Play. But as it says up here, obviously it's not just these apps. So people, I think people would are may have a harder time to understand what you all do. Is it's not app specific, and it doesn't matter what app they're using, or what permissions that app's given mobile uh, parent monitored apps.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
are you are kind of above that. It's literally above the phone on the screen. So big piece what you're talking about is the sexting, the grooming, the trafficking, pornography, predators, and scams. I think what y'all have is a great tool. There are no perfect monitoring tools out there, but as you said, you're trying to get very good at one specific thing, and it looks like y'all have definitely done that.
Yeah.
Where is the kind of the best way for them to learn more about this, through either website, or do you have a kind of Facebook page, or just straight to the app is the best way?
We're developing a lot of that. And I would say that, the website is good, but why not, if you've got an Android phone, it's free. We're never going to ask you for credit card information. So, you can just go to the website and click the Google Play, or if you want to go direct to Play Store, on Google Play Store, you could search for our company name and it'll come up number one. And our company is called iBucci. I, B as in boy, UCCI. If you type that in the search box on Google Play Store, it'll come up, the first app. Yeah,
Excellent. Well, Todd, I appreciate you coming on today and showing parents this really very special app, and we will definitely have you back.
yeah. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.